Welcome back to the Shift. I don't know why I said that weird. Shifter. Yeah, I just had I got excited. I get really bad with intros. I'm very nervous.
Because it's the weirdest thing when you do a podcast, because we were chatting and then all of a sudden you have to go like 3, 2, 1 and then you have to be like, welcome to the show. Like it's always very weird.
It feels very bizarre.
You did great, Katie.
Thank you. Well, welcome, Casey Balsham.
Hi, everyone.
This is so excited. I've literally wanted to have you on the podcast for so long. So this is so great that you're here.
I'm happy to be here. I think we did it I think we did like a Zoom one over quarantine when you had I think you had like another, maybe like a author on or something like that.
Oh, did you do it with Des?
No, not with Des. When you were doing it solo, but I think you had 2 of us on.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, I can't even remember. My brain.
Listen, you can black out the pandemic. Yeah. Nobody would fault you for it.
Yeah.
Nobody would fault you.
I remember someone asking me to get someone on who, because this woman is 40. This was a few years ago, so I don't know how old she is now, but I remember her saying, like, I'd love to get someone on who is trying to get pregnant or talks about it. And I was like, oh, that's Casey.
That's me.
And at the time, you probably would have been like 38 or whatever when she asked. And
in
then,
the thick of it.
Yeah, and then now I have the studio, so it all kind of worked out. But but you're pregnant now.
I'm pregnant now, and I'm 40.
I mean, right? It's like, I'm sorry.
Happening.
To that listener, I was just waiting for the age and pregnancy to match up.
Now we line up. Oh my God, I just burped. I hope you couldn't hear that. I never can tell. It was like internal, but it might have been very loud. I'm 40 and pregnant now, and it took us 5 years. So at 38, I would have been in the middle of trying, and now it's happening, and now it's like almost here. I'm doing like 7 months, 7.5. I don't even know.
That doesn't look like 7 months, but I don't know what 7 months should look like. But you don't look. I don't know.
Me neither. I honestly, like, between like Robbie and my best friend, both of them were like, I kind of thought you'd blow up, and I was like, I kind of thought I would too.
Yeah, you have. Like, I literally only noticed you. Like, I knew you were pregnant, but I only noticed it like recently.
I just kind of popped.
Yeah.
Which is the worst, because it's like when you're it's like I want to look I want to look pregnant. I want to walk around and have people be like, oh, please sit down. And like, nobody gives a fuck when you just look like you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, like I was just walking on trains being like, and people were like, we don't care. People don't even look up. I literally will unzip and unbutton my jacket and open it like a superhero so that people could see my belly. And every so often somebody goes, oh, do you want to sit? And I'm like, I'm damn near hitting people in the face with it to try to get subway seats. It's like pretty fucking, it's brutal.
No, people in New York subway do not give a fuck. You can be old.
They're just not paying attention either.
And I also think that's a bit on purpose because, and we spoke about this last week on the podcast, but let's say like in Dublin, everybody's like, you know, it's friendly, polite for the most part. You might get like the odd person like, what are you looking at? But other than that, it's pretty like if you bump into people, and it's all kind of like if you see an older person, you'd be embarrassed not to give up your seat because you'd be like, oh, people be looking at me, I should give up my seat. You're kind of keeping an eye out for it and holding the door open and stuff. But here it's like head in phone. I don't even want to see an old person because I don't have to give up my seat.
Have all that
pregnant.
Had Catholic guilt in Ireland.
I know. Yeah, we were
guilty for everything.
We were born in the guilt. It's funny because
born in it.
I see Americans now, and obviously they all have like a lot of white guilt, and they're handling it they're like clunky with their guilt. And I'm like, in Ireland, we were just born guilty. We know how to use it.
We're all working with it every day.
Yeah, I can see this new fresh guilt off you. Clean that shit up.
But nobody here pays attention, and it's kind of crazy because like sometimes I try to make a point of like looking around because I've had a couple scary situations on the train, and not too many, you know, like I've lived here for almost 9 years, and but like I think every so often we do need to just pick it up and kind of like clock who looks like a safety person, who looks like a scary person, you know what I mean? Like because I had this one moment on the train, and it was like I was pregnant, so it was a couple months ago, so I was like already just a little more, and I was like kind of an empty train, and a guy got in with a backpack, and he was wearing like kind of like tactical cargo pants, and he had like those like glasses on that kind of look like ski goggles, and then he had one of those like masks on with like a skull mouth or something. He just you just look at this guy and you're like, this is the type of guy that has a gun. And he like walked on, and I instantly had that like pit in my stomach to be like, ugh. But like, you know, I'm glad because he walked right down to the end of the train where I was. And luckily, I think he was just kind of crazy, but he like got on, he like stood like right by me and was like, Somebody tried to stab me 6 times this week already. You want to try to stab me too?
He said that to you?
He just kind of said it out loud, but
Yeah.
it was like the look of the guy was scary enough that like I clocked it, but like had my head been down and then somebody just was standing in front of me screaming about stabbing, I probably would have been more scared than I was. So I always like to just like clock, or like late night after shows, which now I'm like driving a little bit more, but like sometimes at like 2 a.m. and when the subway stations get a little like Star Wars bar-y, like they get a little like little monsters, you have to kind of look around to be like, okay, if anything goes down, like there's been times when I've like nodded at guys on the train, kind of just like, hey, we're the only like, are you with me if something happens? And like, like I've had to kind of like give a signal sometimes, but yeah, so I do think everybody, not only for pregnant women, but for safety, should pick their heads up off their phones every so often. I say that and I play fucking card games on the train. Like I mean, I'm never paying attention, but I'm trying to get better.
Yeah, if Irish people visit, I'm like, don't have your phone out, don't be playing on your phone in the subway track, and then I'll go down and be like near the yellow line on my phone.
100%. 100%. I'm like standing at the bottom of the stairs like an asshole, just like
playing Tetris
or looking up something on Google, like move. Like I want to yell at myself to be like, what are you doing?
Do you
Get
feel
out of everyone's way?
more aware of it now that you're pregnant though as well?
Yeah, and especially now because since I'm like, it's harder to like walk up the subway stairs. Like truly, I'm like, sorry, I'm just in the way now. But like, yeah.
But I mean, more aware of your safety because now you're like.
But I'm driving more.
Okay, yeah.
I am driving more, but it really truly is because I can't. Like I'm so out of breath on the subway stairs, which is like which I was before I was pregnant, but now it's like double.
I know.
But yeah, but I generally, New York doesn't make me feel scared. There's just been a couple moments where like that clocking that one guy. But in general, yeah, I feel, I love New York.
Yeah, I have like it's irrational because I feel safe in New York, and there is times like a person will get on the train and they'll say some stuff, and I've had like a bunch of those interactions. So statistically, I don't know how to say that word. Statistically,
I hear that. Statistically,
it's a lot of S's and T's.
There's some sounds happening.
Some I's
there.
in there.
Yeah, there's a C somewhere. Statistically,
so, that word. I should feel more unsafe in New York. I've been robbed and everything.
Have you?
Yeah, I had my phone robbed right out of my hand.
Jesus.
It was really, really horrible. But and then I go back to Ireland, and we live on a farm, and if I'm trying to look for my cat, like I literally won't. If it's the middle of the night, I will like shout out the window. I won't go outside because I'm afraid.
Yeah. Trees in the night are scary.
No one is gonna get me in my house, and I'm like, I'm more scared walking outside in the dark there.
Because think about true crime podcasts. They never start in the middle of Times Square.
Yeah.
Like not even fucking
it's
once.
like,
it's always like on a small farm in Ireland.
Yes. She went looking for her cat.
Yes.
Wilson never came.
That's how murder
but
starts.
Bad guy
That's how
did.
murder starts.
Yeah.
Like so, I'm fully agree with you there.
I also I'm afraid of ghosts, and I know that ghosts.
Me too.
It's like I
don't want to see one.
Exactly.
Nope.
I don't know if they're real, but I don't want to know that they're real.
They're very real, and I always like every so often, like when I was doing my podcast, I would talk to people who had like experiences with ghosts, and always after I did that, I thought that I was like opening up myself because they like. I feel like they attach themselves to people that are like open to it. So like every so often, just in the dark, I just yell out, I'm not open to it. Don't come to me. We're not visiting Casey. So like I will, because this one girl, I had these 2 girls on. They have a great podcast, and of course I forget what it's called right now. But the one girl, like literally, it follows her, like, and everyone that she knows gets haunted. Like like her best friend gets haunted. It's called We Don't Know Her.
Oh no, because there's another comedian who has a similar story, and scared the bejesus out of me. I was like, I'm not hanging around with you.
I couldn't listen to the edit. Like I was like, I couldn't re-listen to it because she's like, yeah, I moved in with my boyfriend, and our house started getting haunted. She's like, my best friend gets haunted now. Like it follows her wherever since when she was little. Yeah. And then I was like, oh no, can it come through Zoom?
Yeah.
Like I was like I literally was in bed at night being like, no, thank you.
You're like, the connection is bad. I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't do it. But it was like, it's terrifying. I don't think I could. I'm fascinated by them, but don't come for me.
It's so funny that you say that because I did the same thing so I stay sometimes in my cousin's house in Dublin, and they say that there's a ghost who lives near the room where people stay. And my stepmom, it's my stepmom's nieces and nephews.
Yikes.
But she's seen the ghost sitting. It's like an old woman in her wedding gown, and everybody who stayed there. So when I went to stay there most recently, I like didn't turn off the lights. Sorry for using your electricity, but I was terrified. Yeah. And then secondly, when I got into bed, I was like, hey, old lady, I wouldn't be able to mentally be okay if you turned up tonight. It would affect me for the rest of my life. So if you could just stay away.
I have to tell them.
And she didn't turn up to me. So I feel like that was good.
That's good.
Because my stepmom's more chill with that sort of stuff. I'm not.
Yeah. No, I'd be, I would be changed.
Yeah.
I would be forever changed.
I'd have to go live in a mental home.
I know. I just did some shows in Alaska, and they put me up at a hotel that I didn't find out till the second night was haunted. And it's like properly, famously haunted. And like on Halloween, it's like sold out. Like everybody goes there. And I did wake up in the middle of the night to a woman crying for like 3 hours straight. And if you looked at this hotel, you're like, nobody else is staying here but me. And then I did see a lady like, when I was checking out, come out of that room, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, so she was just like next door.
It was just a sad lady.
Sad woman.
It was just a sad lady, because I was like, oh no. Like I was like, as I told Robbie, I was like, someone was crying all night, and he's like, that's weird. And then like the next day, the people picked me up to go to their show, and they're like, oh, that hotel's totally fucking haunted. And I was like, no, with crying ladies, they're like, there is a bride. Yeah. There was a whole bride thing too, that like she died or she killed herself or something. And I was like, awesome. I was like, but I feel like that should be disclosed.
Yeah. Oh,
do you know
definitely.
What I mean?
Yeah, and if they're selling out in Halloween, it's like if someone's booking not on Halloween, they're not people who want to be there for ghosts. That's like
I'm already in Alaska that like has a kind of eerie vibe because it's like dark and just gray and cold, like very cool.
That's where the vampires live.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah. That's why Ireland. That's where the banshees live. If we're gonna see ghosts, it's in Alaska or Ireland. Okay. No. That's I don't know why it's sadder to me a ghost crying than a woman crying, because I hope she has relief in death, you know.
Yeah, that I know. It's like, oh, you're still sad.
Yeah, no,
bitch,
that would
get
be the
over
word.
it.
Yeah, come on,
you're dead. Like,
move on, go to the light.
Yeah, now it's just a real lady in there with her husband, and I was like, oh, thank God, it was just you two.
That's very normal.
It's just you two.
Yeah,
thank God. I thought there was a crying ghost next to me, and that made me sad.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I'm going into my radio voice.
Go for it.
Wait, what was your one-woman show called?
It was called Inconceivable.
Inconceivable, okay.
Oh, yeah, and it was all about trying to get pregnant in the process of it. And I was doing it at Fringe this summer, and I found out like the 5th day that I was pregnant. So I just had to do this show like 20 more times, being like, I'm not pregnant. I can't get pregnant, blah, 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 blah. And then I found out I was pregnant doing the show. It was a very ironic it was a very weird experience.
I think it's amazing because you've been doing that show for, right? You wrote it in the 4 years, I guess.
I wrote it, yeah. It kind of like I wrote it and then I kind of put it up and then I decided to go to Fringe to kind of tweak it to try to really dig into it. But yeah, it was tough doing it because I was like sick and it was exhausting.
Of course.
Doing it there. But yeah, I wrote it because I feel like the only thing, like, infertility is something that we're starting to talk about now. Like, there's like celebrities that have come out that have been like, oh, I've done IVF and blah, 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 blah. And like, it's kind of starting to be talked about now. But it's always like in this kind of sad context. And it is fucking sad. It sucks to go through, but I was like, I need a little bit of like a reprieve. So I tried to start writing jokes about it. And it was like the way that like I processed it. Like I didn't realize that I hadn't been like like I was completely going through it feeling like it was not happening to me. Mm-hmm. Like I was giving myself shots at like Gotham. Like I was bringing coolers with me to like shoot up hormones in bathrooms at comedy clubs and then acting like nothing was fucking happening. And I was like, this shit sucks. And everything you read about it is so doomsday. It's like there's so much that's shared about it that's like makes you feel like it's never going to happen unless you completely change your diet, unless you completely do this. And it was so overwhelming that I was like, fuck, man, can we just laugh about the fact that like my husband's swimmers can't reach me and I have old ass eggs? Like what, like I need something else besides the fucking internet to tell me how terrible this is. Like,
and I mean, your jokes about it are literally some of my favorite still. Like I'll quote them. Like that one about, not are feeling like you're already a bad mom because you didn't know where your egg was.
Yeah, because my embryos are frozen and I don't know where they are. They're in a locker somewhere in the city. I don't know where they are.
I think, and you're probably the first comedian I've really heard talk about it at length. I felt like I was learning every time I watched your set.
And it was because it's supposed to kind of be, but that's what, like, I wanted it to be like informational so people knew, but also that it wasn't going to be like, oh, you only can relate to this if you've gone through it or if you're a woman or if you want children. Like, I wanted to make sure that I still wanted to be a comic, even though I was talking about it. So I was like, how can I talk about this where, like, men aren't like, I got to go to the bathroom, like during these jokes or whatever. Yeah. And I hope I succeeded. I think I tried to do a pretty good job. Yeah. And so, and I was happy with the end product. I haven't like updated it yet with the pregnancy thing. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with it. Like, I still have footage of it. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. But I do think now is the time with it becoming more of a talked about subject.
Oh, definitely.
Do you know what I mean? And it's, just and just with the restrictions happening and all that stuff, because it's very tied into everything that they're trying to take away from women, because it's technically you're making an embryo, and so if they like change the verbiage of everything to be like life begins at fertilization, then that will affect IVF, because technically you're fertilizing eggs, which means that they will like force women to implant like all their force women to implant even embryos that they know they won't let them like test them, so that they know, because you test the embryos so that you don't miscarry, because a miscarriage is just an embryo that was not ever going to make it. You didn't do anything wrong. Like, it was just, it's a chromosomally abnormal. This is, I think, most of the time. Like, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but they're going to force women to implant these just to basically miscarry them. Yeah. If all these laws,
which is insane. There's already women who have probably been miscarrying or struggling.
I know.
And now you're going to
we want the babies.
Now they're going to pay to put them through more. Yes. And also, there's a time limit.
You're going to make me pay $5,000 to implant something that will not last.
No, it's crazy.
If you don't let me test it.
And there's a short time limit on it as well, because obviously women who decide to do that, it's like, get me pregnant as fast as quickly. No, wait. As fast as possible. I just said the two different.
As fast as quickly.
Why can't I speak around you? Did you steal all my words?
I'm stealing
I think
your
I'm
soul.
intimidated by the baby.
Oh, she's intimidating. She's intimidating.
You're pregnant right now, and I have my period right now.
That's what's going on. That's what's really going on.
We're like, whoosh.
The moons are clashing. Yeah. The waves are fucking crashing against rocks. Well, when you go in, you're obviously like, you want a family and you haven't been able to make one. And so the fact that they're like trying to take that right, it's like they're forcing the women that don't want babies to have them, and then they want to restrict the women that do want babies and not try to make it not. Yeah, because they're trying to make it like, they're saying that, when you, because also like, say you do make 6 embryos and you implant 2 and you get your 2 babies, and that's all the kids you want. You know, so you take the 4 and you can donate them, you can do whatever, but sometimes they just discard them. So they're saying that is also like bad. But like, can I tell you, these embryos, you cannot see them with your eye. You need doctor stuff. You need a doctor to put it on a petri dish, suck it up, and put it inside. Like, so it's just crazy to give rights to something that is not.
Yeah, well, it's back to the Sarah Silverman joke. If you're going to give rights to things that are alive, sperm is alive, and men would have to stop jacking off, because our eggs are just nests.
I know.
So like,
that's also the Legally Blonde defense. Remember?
Oh, is that what she said?
That was like her big thing in Legally Blonde, when she was like saying that, like, because when he would like jerk off or whatever, that he was also like, doesn't he need to pay like child support for all of those kids or something? Like, it was something like that. But anyway, Elle Woods knows what the fuck is up.
Yeah, I love Legally
And she
Blonde.
is legally of sound. She's the legal voice of many generations.
Yeah,
Elle Woods.
She is. She really broke down a stereotype there.
Yeah, she gets it. Yeah.
No, and so just to circle back, so for I know people who were born through IVF, so probably like maybe I don't know how long IVF has been going on.
I don't know exactly, but like it's been a while, but obviously it's changed a bit. Like, remember, like back when we were younger, they used to call them test tube babies. Remember?
That's
test
so
tube babies?
funny. Yeah,
that was when like if like somebody was like donating sperm or whatever, and you made a baby like on your own, and obviously so much has changed now. But also, I think like the reason why people are doing it is because there's so much more shit in our food, in like there's so much more plastic, which affects everything. I think iPhones are frying men's balls in their pockets. Yeah. I think that their swimmers are overheated and getting zapped by laptops. So there's just so many more factors because like even when you think about it, plus people are waiting longer. Like my mom had me at 23. Like I started trying at 35. So you're already in a different bracket. Yeah. But
well, and there's lots of things that we don't like what you said about when you said that about the iPhone. I was like, fuck, I literally sleep on my iPhone. I'm probably frying my brain. I put it under my pillow. I don't know. Why do I need to do that?
You have a barrier. No, that's okay because if you put a pillow on your lap, it's not like that's for men.
Okay, good.
You're not frying your balls with the pillow on your lap.
Fry my brain.
Plus, don't fry your brain,
There's
Katie.
definitely something coming out of it because my cat always sleeps on my phone. So there has to be some sort of radiation heat coming out of it.
Yeah.
Because cats love hot stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes they just catch on fire.
Yeah.
These aren't safe devices.
No, and I think...
And we put them right up to our fucking heads.
Yeah. And we love it.
Yeah, we take something that we're like, I have no idea what's in you and no idea how this affects you. Let me put it right next to my brain. Ooh, what is, let me see. Will keeping a smartphone affects sperm count? Am I right or am I making shit up?
By the way, today it's James Webb who is, because usually it's Pat. So if you hear a little giggle in there, because they might be like, oh my God, all of a sudden Pat has a different giggle.
What's up, everyone?
Hello.
So James is looking up to see if smartphones. Oh my God,
I don't think there's conclusive evidence either way.
Okay.
I mean, I think
of course not. It's the biggest money-making product. If there was, they're gonna kill all the scientists who prove that.
I know.
It's never. And like the other thing is too, there was like
Steve Jobs murdered any doctor doing a study.
Absolutely, of course. I'm fully convinced. But also there's like the stuff you said about the plastic reading. There's like that Teflon stuff that is in our body. It makes a chemical that's never. So there's going to be so much in like 100 years that they're going to look at our bodies and be like, oh, of course, this is why we were all
so
kind
much
of fucked
plastic
up.
in us. Yeah. It from the, especially when it's hot, from the lid.
Oh,
to
yeah, and the water bottles
to even like your shampoo bottles. When things are in like everything. This is why it's so terrifying to go on the internet because they'll be like
you're dead.
Everything.
Did you know you're dead? You're that ghost woman crying in the hotel.
Yeah. Everything you're doing is fucking killing you and ruining your fertility. I mean, I also smoked for many years and did a ton of cocaine. So like I'm blaming plastic, but like it's probably the cocaine.
I didn't do coke, but I did smoke for 10 years. I was afraid to do drugs.
For a lot. Were you?
Yeah, because
they're fun, hon.
No, I can't. Well, because there's mental health issues in my family, so I'm like,
mine too. That's why you got to party.
No, I love my sanity.
Take your chances.
No, I'm already on the edge all the time.
I love my sanity.
You know, I'm able to go, you're overthinking, you're being crazy, but I feel like if I took drugs, I'd go, yeah, burn the house down. So.
You might, I do research a lot of murder and a lot of times it's how it happens.
Yeah, I'm not even, no. You know what? The phones are funny because I always knew, even when I got my first Nokia 10, and plus my mother is like I don't talk to her, but she's like unwell, but also extremely paranoid. And some of it I'm sure is also rooted in truth, like that phones are probably bad for your brain.
There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but she would always be like, don't put it up to your ear, be careful. Yeah. And I'd be like,
but you do have to live your life. Yeah. Like you have to read this. It's like it's freaky, but we're not meant to know all this stuff.
Yeah.
You understand? Like we're not meant to be able to Google we're not meant to know, and we're not meant to process as much information as we do. So it's like so it is scary to like go on there and be like, oh, everything is affecting my fertility, and then try to live my life. So it's like you have to just kind of go, I mean, if I'm thirsty and it's a plastic water bottle, I'm gonna have to drink it, and just kind of like there's too much.
I did stop putting it up to my ear though when I started getting acne.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy how vain we are? It's like,
no,
I don't see the brain on the inside, but I see the spots on the face. So now in the last 10 years, I do it speaker or earphone. I'll go like this. Like if I don't have it, I'm like, oh, hello.
That's funny. Yeah. That's fine.
I don't let it touch my face now.
I think that's, think about, because also our phones are disgusting.
They're disgusting.
We bring them into the bathrooms with us.
Yeah.
There's probably poop on all of our phones. Yeah. It's gross.
Wait, so IVF is... They take your husband's
babies.
sperm.
I'm going to be a great mom. Cocaine, poop on my phone. Great. Okay.
They take your husband's sperm. They take your egg. They make an embryo. They insert it in you. They choose which one is going to survive.
So they grade embryos. So when you successfully fertilize an egg with a sperm, then it has to it goes through, so you have to fertilize it, and then it has to make it to day 3. And then it has to make it to day 5 or 6. And then at day 5 or 6, they send it to a lab and they test the chromosomes, and then you get grades. Yeah, like this, like 6AA, 5AA. So it's like a regular grading system, A, B, C's, and and you kind of want you want the grades to be okay.
Yeah.
And then basically depending on those, you implant the best quality one in general. You know, like so we implanted the best quality embryo that was a girl. So it was kind of like.
And was this your first time after all these years actually putting?
Second time.
Okay,
so
second time.
we had done 2 rounds of egg retrievals that only resulted in 1 good embryo.
Okay.
So 1 good embryo, and it was a boy, and he didn't stick.
Okay.
So we went to another doctor, and I did 2 more egg retrievals, and he ended up getting 5 embryos for us.
Oh, brilliant.
So I still have 4 on ice. I've got 2 boys and 2 girls.
You have some kids on ice?
I got some kids freezing somewhere.
Do you
in
think
New York.
you'll decide to have another kid, or would you?
I mean, we have to see those things. I ultimately want 2 kids. I do believe that kids need another person because I feel like they need somebody to talk to about how crazy we fucking are.
But
do you know
also,
what I mean?
I was the only child up until 12, and I don't know how to say words. So you need to talk, because I was just talking in my
You were
head.
just talking to yourself. But I also think, like, when you're an only child and you're trying to tell someone, like, my mom is fucking crazy, people are like, why are you talking to yourself? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I feel like they need a sibling, but also, this is new. Things are expensive and all that stuff. But because of my age, my doctor did say, he goes, if you want a second one, he goes, you have a year, and then I need to put another one in you.
You got to do
And I'm
Irish
like,
twins.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is
So,
great though, because
yeah.
I think I have 4 siblings now, and they're all the same age as each other, close, like big age gap with me.
Yeah.
But A, I love them all, but B, their relationship is amazing as well.
Yeah.
Like, and you'll always have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think.
So I don't fault anybody for only having 1 kid. Sometimes that's all you can afford. Something like, I mean, I totally get the reasons. I would love to have 2. Just so that there is some kind of camaraderie, and I think I would have them because I think all of our next embryos are the same quality, so I think I'd have them surprise me. But I think there is part of me that's like, it'd be nice to have 1 of each, but also like sister bond because I have a sister. Like sisters are kind of and also like you could just use all your shit that you already have. Until they decide like I don't like any of this. But
I love sister bond too as well. I mean, there is a time though where they hate each other a little bit because I like a little like rivalry, but then the closeness comes back.
So there's part of me. So I don't know. I mean, like I think I'd want 2, but again, you don't know. I could have 1 and be like, holy shit, I cannot handle this. Like in my brain, I've wanted to be a mom for so long that I'm like, I got this.
Did you always want to be a mom?
Forever.
Okay,
like,
so that was
3rd grade. I was naming children.
And when you met your husband, who is obviously a comedian as well, was that something? And he was your friend before, right? You guys were friends. How long were you friends for?
Like 4 years. We moved here as friends, and then the first night we made out because we got drunk because we didn't have beds. Okay. And then we were like, oh fuck. And then within like a month and a half, we were dating, and so we've never not lived together.
That's amazing.
We've lived together.
So you were dating as roommates.
Well, we moved as friends. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so you moved here. Oh, so you've been 4 years
moved
friends
as
in LA.
Friends. Yes.
Then moved to New York.
Moved to New York as friends.
I see.
First night here.
That's hilarious.
Hooked up, and I was like, dang. And then within like a month and a half of us, kind of like oddly like sneaking into each other's rooms while like Amy was asleep, and then she left to go back to LA for 2 weeks, and like shit just went down. We were like sucking each other off on the couch and shit, and we were like, all right, we're doing this.
I love that so much.
I know. Amy was like, what happened while I was gone? I was like, just don't sit there.
Yeah.
Like just stay to the right.
And she lived with you guys up until recently.
We lived together
right?
for 6 years.
Yeah, she was like basically
till the pandemic.
in your relationship,
She was very much in our relationship.
I love it.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
The pandemic was actually really fun with the 3 of us because we'd like as soon as we banged on the pots and pans, we were like bars open, and we were just getting like boxes of wine and like watching Game of Thrones and playing games. It was actually really fun to have like a couple of us at the house, so it wasn't just me and Robbie.
Yeah. It's like a buffer.
And she wasn't alone, although like I'm sure there was times when she might have wanted to be alone, or maybe we wanted, but it was really nice to have like we had a good time over the pandy.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it.
No.
I mean, I feel sad for the losses.
Of course. Oh my God, stop. No,
but I liked it.
It also changed my life.
I know.
Became mentally. Everybody else, like a lot of people are like they mentally spiraled. I became mentally well for the first time in my life.
I
relaxed for the first time ever. I had literally been working since a young teen and always trying to prove myself, and then I cut off like one side of my family and then kept working because in my head I was like, oh, I'll just like work all the time to like prove myself to this sort of thing. Like, I don't know to who. And then the pandemic, I was like, oh, we don't need.
Nobody's.
And this is not productive.
No, it's not.
And I just relaxed and watched shows. And like me and my roommate at the time, I don't live with her anymore, but she's amazing. We would like do like little workout dances, and we would make food. And it was the first time as well. We'd been friends for literally like, I think we were friends now 8 years. So 6 years before that, really good friends. And we realized that for the past few years, we've been so busy and living together, but not actually spending any time together. It was the first time we really got to like chill on the roof and like make dinners and really like that. And I was like, oh, we have to make sure to still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. I hope that that's what, that some people brought back to be like, oh, I don't have to do, I can say no to spots at 1:30 if I want, or I don't have to do every night. I can do other real people stuff. Like I've always felt like I had a pretty good balance because I had other things I liked besides comedy. You know, like I like to see my Broadway shows. I like to go out to my dinners. I like to just fucking sit at home sometimes. Like sometimes like I love getting home at like 5 p.m. and just couching it. Just taking off the bra, taking off the socks, and just being like, this is heaven. Just throwing on Below Deck and watching a whole fucking season. And there's so many comics that are like, I gotta get up on, I gotta do it every night. That's how I do my therapy. And I'm like, just go to therapy.
Yeah, I know. I started
I'm like,
therapy.
don't use these poor people as therapy. Go to fucking therapy. Yeah. So I always had a good balance, but I really needed a break for the pandemic. I was burnt out. I was crying before sets. I was crying after sets. I was ready to fucking quit comedy. I was done. I was like, this is not fun. I hate this. I don't like comparing myself. I don't like seeing other things. And then the pandemic happened, and then I was like, oh, nothing fucking matters. And I got rid of a whole layer of, I don't know, judgment I had on myself or something like that. Like I just needed to step away from it for a minute to realize that I really liked it. Yeah. And then it was actually doing Zoom shows, which people hated, that I was like, got back to just the fundamentals of comedy, which was just kind of talking, not even performing. And I really was like, okay, I do like this. And then after the pandemic, I kind of had a little more confidence of just in myself, I didn't have that fear of like, I just had less fear. I had less of an imposter syndrome after the pandemic, which was really nice. No. I don't know if I would have overcome.
I completely agree. And I think for comedians who were willing to do Zoom shows or like park shows or whatever, I truly think it made me 100 times a better comedian. And with Zoom shows, I really enjoyed them because it taught me to like perform in a space that you're not. It was like an exciting new challenge.
It was more intimate. It was very strange.
Yeah, and trying to talk to these people and keep their attention. And it really taught me to slow down. And then same with the park shows, to like get people's attention while there's a plane. But for me, that was very exciting. Like even doing the subway show, and like so many comedians were kind of like, I remember doing a subway show and they were like nervous and like, this is hell. And I was like, this is where I excel.
This is my dream.
You know, like I just love doing like feeling up. And so I think for me that really, it was like exciting. And then it was like you were doing like 4 shows a week.
Yeah, then it was back.
You know, and you were like, and it was like 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. shows, or like a Zoom show at 10 maybe, but you're in your pajamas. It was the first time I ever spent time as well by myself. Yeah. And I think a lot of people find it really hard to be alone, and the pandemic forced me. And now I'm like you. I'm like, Sunday night off, I'm staying in. I'm watching a season of Buffy.
I love it. I love being alone. I do have those times where like I will go a little stir crazy sometimes, but like for the most part, like I will find shit to do. Not productive shit. I'm never doing anything that will help my career. But I am
gonna
finding
clean that
shit
window
to do. I am cleaning baseboards. Yeah. I am going through old papers.
And you feel satisfied. You did a little job. Yeah, you know, that's me.
I'm like, not writing content or doing anything that would help me. But I'm doing shit.
And look, enjoy it while it lasts, because soon enough you're gonna have a baby.
I know.
And so with what got to the point? So okay, so you told your husband, or before you were like very clear up front, I want to have kids one day.
We had I believe we had talked about, but you know, it took us so long. Like he didn't propose for so long. There were definitely some things where I was like, buddy, I'm in my 30s. Like if we're not doing marriage and kids, like I need time to figure this out with somebody else, because like TikTok, my eggs are shrinking, and you know we're not getting any younger. And he was like, he knew. Like he just didn't know how he felt about marriage and all that stuff. But he did say that he wanted kids, and that he was still kind of like, I think was saying it for my benefit. And then that was like probably like a year, which was like really, really tough. And then And then it was kind of like I called him out on a couple different things of just him being stubborn. And I was like, you see that how it was affecting me. And then it kind of like clicked where he's like, okay, like I'm in it now. Like, let's do it. And so we actually started trying then before we were even engaged or anything like that. Because I was like, I'm 36. Like, if we're not having kids, like, I need to figure this out because that's what I want in my life. And that's what I told you I wanted when we started dating a couple years ago. So it was tough because I think guys they're not like, I mean, I'm sure like there are a ton of men who know they want kids, but I think it's a harder wraparound.
There's not a pressure on them either. There's no concept of time.
No, there's not. There's not. And for them to get tested, it's so much easier than for women to get tested. So it's like, buddy, just go jerk off in a doctor's office. Let's just go see if it, because this is one thing about infertility that people don't understand. It's 50-50. Like the women have to do so much more, but we have to do all that if our husband's swimmers don't swim. So it's like, I still have to take the shots. I still have to go through the procedures if the problem is the man. Yeah. So it's always going to fall on us, but it is 50-50.
That is actually crazy.
Nuts.
I'm sure there is some shots that they could put in the balls that'd make them faster, but they'll just never do that.
I think there's some vitamin supplements, but for the most part, if they're not like,
they're not going to research.
Only a couple of them are like if they have no interest in getting up to the egg, they're not going to fucking make it up there. So it is 50-50, and it's so much easier for a guy to get tested. So that was also a big point of contention where I was like, just go to the fuck, and he'd be like, okay. But then, oh God, there was another bubble. Sorry.
It's fine. Don't even worry.
My body makes noises now, which is something I'm accepting.
So tip for if you get pregnant,
just know that
prepare the noises and
that
you won't get a seat on the subway.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was like we had talked about it, and so that's why we did actually start trying before. But again, there was like a year and a half that he was like kind of not as like focused as he was towards the back half, which I get it. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And then we were doing treatments in the pandemic, which felt fucking crazy because there was nobody in the streets, there was nobody on the subways, and we were just like trying to make life and bring it into whatever.
People are dying.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what the world is gonna look like in 6 months, but like, so it was very strange.
I do think as well for men, and I don't know if the men listening will agree with this, but my experience with men, and this is father, boyfriend, any ex-boyfriends, is they will not go to the doctor. They have an issue.
They don't like the doctors.
They have something in their blood that says, no, I'm going to wait till I'm dead before I get this cured. I mean, I've had arguments with my boyfriend, and my stepmom has been like, just schedule an appointment for the doctor.
They won't go. And I find it's also impossible to talk to him about it. Like whenever I try and talk to Robbie about it, he literally turns into like a 3-year-old. Like I'm like, you need to get the mole on your back checked. He's like, you need to get the mole on your back checked. And I'm like, I don't have I was like, what are we doing here?
No, I've had the same with my boyfriend.
Like, go to the fucking doctor.
I've been like, I don't mean to be a bitch, but this is unattractive. Like, I'm not your mother. Don't turn into it. But this is definitely something you need to, and for me,
help.
Because it's also like, me and my boyfriend have talked about marriage, and we've talked about potentially having kids one day. So, and I am 32. So it is conversations we've had, but I'm like, there was a very specific thing that I was like, this is something that's going to get worse. And if you really want to have kids, you haven't been to the doctor. You have free health insurance. Go to the fucking doctor.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're not listening to me. I'm not. And then eventually he went after this became like a consistent argument.
I know. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be this role. I'm not your mother. And then because they do kind of turn back into like a kid, and you're like, this isn't.
They turn into a fucking 3-year-old, and you're like, what? Do I have to promise you a lollipop?
Yeah. And then when he goes to the doctor, he comes back. She said everything that I said, but he's like, yes, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, I'm just grateful, but in my head I'm like,
it's everything.
Just not realize I've been saying this for 6 months.
No, because they need somebody else to tell them.
Yeah, and the dermatologist thing as well is we literally have free health insurance. We have the same health insurance, and I've said about the dermatologist a few times, but at this stage I'm like, whatever. You can go for free.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. You're gonna probably lose your health insurance once.
I know,
and then you're gonna go, oh, I should have gotten this green looking mole.
I know. It's like I'm just like just please just go. And it's so long. He'll be like, okay, I'll go. And I'm like, what is happening here?
James is relating really hard. James is about to book a doctor appointment.
But it's also funny because then he'll go to the dermatologist and then like he won't, and then I'll be like, well, what happened? Like it'll be like days later, like he won't even tell me that he went. He's like, oh yeah, I went. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like what?
Yeah,
Help me.
It's their kryptonite.
Tell me.
Doctors or
Doctors,
medicine or
all of it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because like women, we love pills.
Yeah.
We love the fucking doctor. Give me all the pills.
I have like the
Give 'em
little bit
to
of
me.
the opposite with the pills because there is something with like Irish
Well, they're
where
drugs. They're kind of like drugs. They will kind of make you lose control.
Yeah, maybe. And I
That's
think
why
it's
I
like,
like 'em.
you're like, I love the Zen.
I know, but I can't do them because I do get scared about because there's so many like, you know, if you mix this and you do that and if you have a glass of wine, and I would rather have my wine than my pills, but like if there's another Casey somewhere in the world that is thriving on pills. She loves them.
And I mean, in America is very, in one way I don't trust the doctors in America, so here I am being a bit of hypocritical, but I'll go to female doctors. I trust them, and all my doctors are immigrants, so I really trust them. But I'm kind of a little scared with there is a push for pills, or there is a kind of, yeah. And I grew up where take it only if you need it so that it works. Yeah. Whereas here, people are taking ADD medication when they don't have ADD. It's like whereas I'm pretty sure I was diagnosed as a child, but they were like, she'll be fine. And it's very like mild if it's just like really easily distracted and can't have lights on when I'm watching TV and shit like that. But I would never, and I can't control my thoughts.
That's one of the things.
And I space out and miss the stop. But I will never take pills. And then I know people who don't have ADD and they're taking the pills and it's but I'm
But
definitely.
it's also like if you took one of the pills one time, you would be like,
I'd write another special.
Girl, I got my hands on some Vyvanse. Shout out Vyvanse. I rewrote my first one woman show that I did. I rewrote the whole thing. I've rearranged my whole house. But it does feel like your jaw will be sore after like you've just done an 8-ball. It's crazy, but like I was like, man, I think I really have. But the trouble with that is that then the more you take them, the less effective they become.
Okay.
But like every so often, I would just take one. I would get so much shit done that I was like, holy fuck, I have ADD and I am just free ball in life. Yeah. I am just raw dogging my everyday thoughts and my everyday distractions when like. Man, if I was like, I literally sat down and was like, wrote for like 7 hours. My sister was like, oh yeah. She's like, I studied for like a whole, like she was a nurse and she like studied for a whole test. Like you will, that's what's the scary part is that when you do take a pill and you realize, oh fuck, I do have ADD, then you're like, damn, damn.
I mean, I wonder because my memory is pretty bad as well. Maybe I should try a pill one day. But I don't know if I want that power.
Me promoting you to get fucked up on drugs. This is my toxic trait is that I like to make sure that people I make people smoke their first cigarettes with me. I make people try cocaine with me. I make people do bad things, Katie. So
bringing me to the well,
I'm gonna be a great mom. I can't wait.
someone just complained, and I truly before any messaged me being like, don't worry about comments. I don't give a fuck about comments. I'm so numb to it. But someone did write a comment on the podcast review, like a review, complaining about my good girl innocence, which is just hilarious because every other guy in the world, when I put a joke up about sex on my Instagram or something, is like another female talking about sex. But this guy listened to the podcast and wrote a review complaining, and I'm like,
well, tell that guy we're gonna get you on pills.
Now I'm gonna stay innocent forever. I'm never gonna do anal because of you, motherfucker. Okay, I'm gonna keep my innocence. Fuck you, Steven. I think that was his name.
I'd do Vyvanse before I did anal. Just
I mean, I might do Vyvanse if I do anal. I am so like.
No, I feel like you'd be too tense. Actually.
Oh really? I need something to loosen me up. I'm very tense. Anytime we've even touched that, I'm like. And my boyfriend is like, he definitely is like arse obsessed.
They love it. It's just a new thing. It's a different place, you know. Like I said, they get bored easily.
I know, and I'm keeping it off the table for as long as possible. Keep it spicy, you know. Keep them.
I'm about to be
excited.
someone's mother. You think you're gonna touch my poop hole? You're not. I'm someone's mother. I am the mother of an unborn child.
So you talked about children. You finally
talked about children.
How long did you try to get pregnant naturally before?
Naturally. Probably like 2 years, which is too long when you're past like 35 or 36. They usually say at like 35, 36 if it's taken more than 6 months. But you kind of it's hard to wrap around because like, you know, we were fucking and you're like, okay, it'll happen. And then and like I kind of like wasn't taking it seriously, even though I was kind of just kept thinking. And then and then I started to track ovulation. But also remember, like during that first year was also tough because I felt like he wasn't in it. So it's like you have to have sex to have a baby. But I think we were just on such different pages that we were like not even having that much sex because we were not getting along, because it was like there was different things that we
stressed out fighting,
and I'd be like upset. It was like stressed and fighting, and for me that doesn't work. Like if I'm mad at you, the last thing I want to do is fuck you. When I feel like you're not putting in effort to me, the last thing I want to do is like I'm like, when you only touch me when we lie down in bed, that will be the biggest turn off. I'm like, I need the affection I need the foreplay kind of has to last in our whole, not like oh, you have to just constantly grab my ass, but like you need to be like nice and pay attention to me and be affectionate with me, instead of just trying to drape your fucking arm over me in the bed and then try to like act like a baby. I'm like, get the fuck off. Like, this is the last thing I want to do.
No,
Men, let's stop acting like a baby. Let's stop acting like you want to don't like fucking cuddle, like put your head up against me like you're a goddamn kitten. Get the fuck off me. Like, like you need to start with your, like it needed to have started 2 hours ago on the couch if we're gonna, like I need a little bit more. And so that first year when we were kind of doing it, like I had no idea what my ovulation schedule was. We didn't know anything, but also we were not on the same page. So that first year is kind of a wash. And then we started tracking ovulation and doing that, and that was kind of confusing because again I was kind of assuming that I wouldn't have these problems because like I said, my period is very normal, but then I didn't know what was going on with his situation. Like, so there's just like all these things, and I should have actually gone in sooner. But at the end of the day, everything kind of led to where I am, and I do feel like this is when it was meant to happen. Like, this is the baby I was meant to have. Like, she's my person. You know what I mean? Like, between 30, like I was still kind of going through some shit, and me and Robbie were still kind of going through some shit. And it's just been kind of like straightened out in the last couple years. Like there's, so it's, I feel.
You guys are very ready now.
Yeah, it's just ready, and we're just more connected, and we're just working on connecting more. And, like I'm in therapy, he's in therapy. We've done it together. We've just tried to really work on how we treat each other before you bring somebody else. Like had we had a kid when I was 35, when we first started trying, I think it would have been a lot rougher of a situation because we were a bit, there was disconnect.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important to make sure that everything's kind of, all the other stuff has to be functional. Like we're first, where our relationship has to be first. Because if that's broken, then everything that goes down to the kid, I think, is also going to feel a bit broken. So it's like we have to be
on
working.
The same team. Yeah. It's so true, because I feel like when you see parents who have a kid and they're not on the same page, they're not on the same team, I've seen it where they fight with each other through the kid. I remember one time being around a parents and a kid, and so the dad gave the kid like a very good the kid was being bold and he should discipline, but then the mother was undermining through the kid, like, don't listen to daddy, he always overreacts. And then he's like, well, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so toxic.
It's very toxic.
So yeah, if you don't, and I also liked what you're saying about like that you guys have clearly worked, because like from the outside, if I saw you together, you would just always think, amazing, perfect relationship, look at these like comedians killing it.
And
but
that's not the case.
Relationships are work.
They're tough. They're very hard, and especially like I said, us never having space from each other. We've been together the whole time, and me being upset that he wasn't proposing, and him not sure that he wanted to propose just because this, that, and the other, because he just wasn't sure about marriage as a whole. And then we were fighting, so he's like, I don't know if I was kind of like, I was very resentful.
Yeah.
And so I was a bitch because I was like, I want to be fucking, are you going to propose or not? So there was so many layers that just needed to work themselves out before we got to her.
Yeah.
So that we're not miserable for her. And so yeah, so I'd say like 2 years probably trying, and then we started doing IUIs, the pandemic, which is like the step before IVF, where they just kind of take the sperm, since it doesn't want to swim, and they basically just put it like next to the egg.
Oh, they shoot them up.
It's like the joke was like the turkey basting. So they put it like next. They kind of like help you get like a couple big juicy fat eggs that are like ready to ovulate, And then they basically just hand the sperm to them. They're like, here you go, ma'am.
Oh.
Like, here's your.
That's so.
Yeah.
All these other sperms are not making it, and then they just see this guy go, doo, like
Well,
a little escalator.
They do a couple.
Oh, okay.
They do like they take his sperm sample and they like condense it and they spin it so that you have just the strongest ones, and then they just place it like past your cervix. And they just hand it to the egg. And so we did a couple of those, again, in the middle of the pandemic. So, like, it was very weird. But it's just tough because you have to wait, you know, because you only can do it every month when you ovulate. So we did it we did it March, April, May, June of 2020. It was crazy. And then I'm, like, on hormones that, like, make me nuts. And it was wild. So we did those. And then after that, when my doctor was like, it's not going to happen this way. And we were like, well, I'm starting to see that. But it's just so much cheaper than IVF. Yeah. Like those are like $600 to $800 a pop, where IVF is like, $15,000 for part of it.
$15,000.
We're in for about 90 at this point.
Yeah, I remember when I heard
We're
your joke last
we're
night.
in for
I was
about
like,
90K.
fuck, I do not have 90K if I
Nobody
ever.
does. We're doing shows in barbershops. We don't have 90K.
How do you plan for that then? If it's like, okay, so there's a couple listening and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to go to IVF, but we don't. Do you just do like a saving system or a loan system?
Well, I think I got like one of those pandemic loans. So I used part of that. My dad had a little bit.
Nice.
Some of Robbie's family. We had a very nice friend who is very successful give us some. We had a couple benefactors, and then Robbie has had decent jobs where he's been able to give a little. And then we finally got insurance.
Oh, perfect.
Because insurance is many insurances don't cover.
Yeah.
So we did 3 rounds out of pocket, 3 egg retrievals. I had to get a surgery. I had to get like 2 different kinds of like little surgeries. I had like a fibroid. I had a septum. Like you don't know what the fuck's going on inside of you until somebody literally takes a wand and shoves it all the way inside of your body. And it's like, well, there's something here.
You've been living with this for forever.
And it's crazy. It's crausy. So then his new writing job works with they were giving them a stipend at this thing called Carrot, which is specific fertility. And the clinic that we went to happened to take Carrot. So it just worked out that the last round with this guy who we were successful with, but the other ones were just
That's amazing that the last guy it worked out with is the one that was insurance covered and the out of pocket one didn't work.
I know.
I'd be raging. I'd be like, sorry. If it didn't work, sorry, I'd be like, there should be a return. Customer policy, return policy.
First, I know. Truly, my first doctor was well, but I will say we put a lot on credit cards, and then we had a lot of points, so we did get to take like a pretty cool trip when I wasn't pregnant last spring. We were like, fuck it, we're traveling for 3 weeks on our IVF credit card points. But our first guy, after our first round didn't work, they did actually do a lot to help us. Like they saved us a bag full of drugs because the drugs can be expensive. He cut the price in half. Like they were trying, they really were trying to like help us out because like the first round not to, like, we rob did. You. Yeah, and he was so nice. That protocol didn't work for me because even though it's the same procedure everywhere you go, everybody has different protocols. And so it really is interesting. Like his approach was more medicine and this guy was less medicine. And it just depends on what your body responds to.
And which one worked for you? Less medicine. Okay, amazing.
Less medicine. Yeah. So my first one, I was on a lot of medicine. And that's why like we spent like $12,000 on just the medicine. So my second round, the nurse was like, some women that have insurance will bring in their meds for other women. So she just basically handed me a $10,000 bag of medicine. It was like,
that's so nice. I want to be on that system.
She was
where
great. They were great.
If you can get the meds and you don't need it, give it to
Yes, and so that's what I when I had extra stuff, I put out a call on Instagram, and I actually gave half of my egg retrieval meds to 2 women who didn't have insurance that were going to do an egg retrieval. So saved them a couple $100. But yeah, you pay it for it. So it really is. You just kind of have to move if it's not working. And like your doctor, I liked both my doctors. My body responded very differently to this other protocol. And so,
what's the no medicine one though? What is
it's just less medicine. Like so, because you have to take like this certain drug, and like my first doctor had me just on a very high dose of it. And this guy had me on a low dose. And then for the transfer, when you're getting your body ready to receive the embryo, you have to have like your lining has to be thick. There has to be like a lot of different things going on. And my first doctor had me on a lot of medicine for that as well. And this other doctor didn't have me on. He didn't have me on hardly any hormones. He kind of just monitored me. he had me take like a little bit of a steroid at first, and then after it was in, I had to take like I had to take an up the twat like suppository to kind of help everything get like nice and cushy. And so it was just very different. Yeah. It was just very different. So it different strokes. But I know people who have done the whole protocol where they're on all the different pills, and they're taking the shots in the ass, and they're taking the estrogen patches, and they're doing all that. Like, so there's like so many different things, and this
great to know, because
yeah.
I didn't know that there was all these different
like because normally they want you to take progesterone, you shoot it into your butt. I had to put estrogen in my crotch. I had to wear estrogen patches. I was also taking this like antibiotic stuff. I was also like taking a steroid. Like, there's so much stuff. And then this guy said, we're gonna try like a modified natural cycle. So we're gonna go with what your body's already doing, see if we can get your lining and your like hormones where they need to be, if they're going to rise naturally. Because that's the thing, is that your body has to be at a certain point to be able to receive an embryo. Yeah. And so he just monitored it, and it was like looking okay. And he's like, but you are a little low in this, so that's why I have to take the suppositories. And then I was just taking those in Scotland, and then I had no symptoms, and I was like, I'm not pregnant. And it was a really hot day, and I was like, and I want to drink a beer. So I pissed on a stick, and I was like, no! And then I just started crying hysterically, and was like, and then I was just in Scotland pregnant I was with 2 other comics, but I was just in a different country.
But not with your husband.
Not with Robbie, not with anybody. And just kind of like there with like weird food, and like there was like a trash strike, and everything smelled like garbage, and they like bake bread at night. And so the whole place, like it was kind of miserable, because I was like so sick, and I was like, this is not my then I was like going to McDonald's so much, because I was like, I need something familiar. I need American trash. I need plastic cheese,
chicken nuggets.
I was getting cheeseburgers like for fucking like a week straight. It was like crazy.
You're like, you're making sure that baby knows she's American. I'm not giving you any potatoes, no haggis.
It's like all this brown food around me is really scary.
Yeah, we're gonna get you some unhealthy.
Yeah, I needed it. I was like, where's all the plastic food?
Yeah. I think we've a few minutes left. Is there any so that was that second guy? Are you able to say his name though?
Yeah, this was at Spring Fertility in Midtown, and my doctor was Peter Klatsky, and he is amazing. He has a bunch of clinics in San Francisco too. This is his one in New York, and I've sent half of New York female comedians to him. I mean, like I like
the less medicine, because I don't take birth control. Did you take birth control before?
No, but they will put you on some to kind of like they'll make you. No, I haven't taken birth control since I'm 21.
Yeah, I never. Yeah. What were you just using condoms before?
I was pulling out like a fucking grown up, Katie.
I still use condoms. I'm crazy.
Katie.
I got the ring, and it's been sitting in my fridge for like 3 months, because I'm afraid to use it. I'm afraid to put hormones in my body.
No. That's why I was scared. I was like, maybe I am the problem, because I probably should have been pregnant many, many times. From 21 to 35, I was not on birth control. So should I do pull out and do an ADD meds? Okay. Yeah. But just like, here's the thing: track your ovulation. There's really only 3 days a month you can get pregnant. Okay. So most of the time, unless you're like extremely fertile, but like for the most people, there's like a 3-day window. So that means you have a lot of time during the month to fuck, kind of freely.
Yeah, my boyfriend's gonna be so happy. This man has been using condoms for 2 years.
Just you can check your ovulation. You can literally get the ovulation sticks, and if you're ever worried, it's always 15 days back from the day you're supposed to get your period. So like in the middle of your cycle.
Okay, that's when you are pregnant.
That's when you're usually ovulating.
Okay. So see, in Ireland they scare the shit out of you.
When you get a little happy face, throw on a condom. But if you don't have a happy face,
you should have an ovulation stick that shows
ovulation sticks.
And a happy face.
Happy face means that around this time your mucus.
That means you can't get pregnant.
Keyword, your mucus. Yeah, when your mucus is like thick, that's when like it's all juicy and it's like helping the sperm swim up.
Oh, so you can get pregnant then?
When you're when you're ovulating and you get the happy faces on the ovulation stick.
Don't have sex.
Put on a condom.
Oh, put on a condom. Okay.
And if you don't get a happy face, pull out.
This is a great tip for both, for wanting to get pregnant and not wanting to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then so for any women who are in their 40s wanting to get pregnant, do you have any tips for them or advice quickly before we go?
You probably will have to see a doctor. That's just how science is. Like after 35, we just kind of have a shit luck, but it's possible. I didn't know if it was, and it is possible at 40 to get pregnant, because I am 40 and pregnant. And just like your doctor, trust them, and don't go on the internet too much.
Yeah.
Because it'll freak you the fuck out. And also know that like you can make small changes, but you don't have to. Like, unless you've got like a ton of shit happening, like endometriosis and adenomyosis, like which are all like unless you have like a ton of crazy stuff happening, just be good to yourself. Try to be a little healthier. You don't have to be perfect, and go in and see a doctor sooner than later if you're like between 38 and 40.
Yeah.
Just because you might need it and you don't want to waste that time.
Yeah.
If you want the kid.
I don't want to have a kid until I'm 40.
Go freeze your embryos.
I know. I have no money right. Oh, I have a little, but not enough to.
It's tough. It's tough.
I'm gonna wait till 35 and we'll circle back because I know my boyfriend definitely wants to have a kid one day, but I definitely want to wait till as late as possible.
Because the big drop off happens after 35.
Okay. Yeah.
So between like 30 and 35, we're still pretty okay, and then at 35, it just kind of goes a little bit faster.
Yeah.
For most people, again, some people stay fertile until they're 45.
I actually
who knows?
Have a friend, and you know her, and she asked you for advice about getting pregnant. I think she was on the road with you, and you were like, do it a year before you want to have the baby, just to be sure.
Did I say that?
I'm pretty sure. Now I might be butchering this, but she got pregnant like the first time she tried. She was like, oops, I thought this was gonna take a really long time. He was like to her boyfriend,
were they older? Was it somebody that was?
She was 34, and she was saying she wanted to get pregnant at 35, and you were like, I'd try now, and she got pregnant like that month.
Some people are lucky. Some people are just lucky.
But oh my god, she's
an
amazing baby. I hope she's okay with me sharing that. I must text her and ask before.
I'm gonna have to see who this is.
I will. I'll tell you. Okay. I'll tell you.
But well, there it is. There. Take all the advice from me with a grain of salt.
So do coke. Do
a ton of drugs.
Do 80
pull out when you don't have a smiley face.
Use your credit card because you get to go on a trip. These are some great tips.
Use your goddamn credit card. And ask your successful friends for $10,000.
Just great. Also, if I ever get successful and you need money, I'll help. Let's if you're a friend, not some weirdo coming. I shouldn't have said that. I edit that out. Where can people find you? There's nowhere right now to watch Inconceivable?
No, there's nowhere right there. I'm trying to figure out. But I'm at CaseFaceB on Instagram, where there's some clips. I have a YouTube channel that I think I'm going to do stuff with this year. We'll see. And yeah, those are kind of like my main two. I had a podcast. It's kind of on hiatus, and I think me and Ari Finling, I think, are about to start kind of like a parenting podcast.
Oh, so brilliant!
I'm pivoting with the times. So look out for that soon. Oh, there's the belly.
You have a Snapchat.
Oh, I do. That's right. I have a true crime Snapchat show called Lawless.
Yeah.
So definitely, just even if you're not on set, just go subscribe to that so I can keep making money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You don't have to watch them, but just go subscribe.
Oh
please.
yeah. Just leave it on. Yeah.
Just subscribe so that they'll keep paying me.
Perfect. No. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. This is absolutely great. So much fun.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And for all the listeners, this will be up a week early on Patreon. So I guess this only message is for the Patreon because I don't know how you guys, that doesn't make any sense. But if you're watching this now a week later on YouTube, you could have seen it a week earlier on Patreon. So get with it. You could have
already been pregnant by now. What the fuck are you doing?
Right now, it's pay what you want until I figure out how to do. So you could just be on there for really cheap until I figure out how to do. I just can't make a decision with the rates of pay. So get on right now. I do solo episodes. These come out a week early. Bonus stuff. Rate review. Please now rate review because we need to get rid of Steven motherfuckers. Reviews. That'd be great. And if you have any advice or guests, all of that, please DM me at Katie Boyle Comic. And if you're not following me and you're just a listener, go follow me as well, Katie Boyle Comic.
The hell?
Yeah. I do think sometimes they just listen to this and they don't follow me.
I do. Yeah, and that's true.
It is not a crossover between who follows me and who listens to the podcast. I'm fully
Cross
convinced.
it over, you. Yeah, look at you cross it over.
Okay, and yeah, follow Casey. So thank you so. And thanks, James. We had James Webb today. So thank you so much.